Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to the Easy Come, Easy Go podcast. This is Wayne Bennett, and this is our 13th episode. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Shady Spring Tigers for winning their first basketball state championship. And Ronnie Olson and his crew did a great job. And it looks like with the returning players, they're going to be pretty good for years to come. And today we're doing our first ever remote broadcast, and we're in Cleveland, Ohio, home of the Indians and the Browns and the Cavaliers. And I don't know a lot about Cleveland, but right now, this weekend, it's kind of cold. The air's coming off the Lake Erie and a little bit chilly, but it's a great town. Got to visit the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Our special guest today is Dale Smith. He's a former West Virginian, old Stanford boy by way of Delaware. And welcome, Dale.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going great. Now, your dad was George Smith and your mother Judy Smith, but she was from East Beckley and he was from Beaver area, and devout West Virginians. And but you were born in Delaware.
That's right.
What part of Delaware?
Wilmington, Delaware, which is right below Philadelphia.
And how long did you live in Delaware?
I lived there till I was 7. So yeah, till I was 7.
And when you grew up on Hunt Avenue?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's in Stanford.
Right.
Went to Stanford Elementary, Stratton Junior High, and Woodrow Wilson High School. What kind of experiences did you have in elementary? And were you a good student, a bad student? Or
Well, I also went to Cranberry Prosperity. That was before Stanford Elementary was built. Had the choice of really going to Piney View or Cranberry because my neighbors went to one and I went to the other. But when I went to school, to be honest with you, when we came from Delaware, the schools in West Virginia were actually a little bit further ahead than we were. So, and we moved kind of like in mid-September. So like school had already started in Delaware. So I kind of transitioned into school at Prosperity, Cranberry Prosperity. They were a little bit ahead, so I was in the remedial reading class in second grade. And what's interesting is I was the only one in the remedial reading class that actually went to the next grade. So that was kind of interesting, yeah. I have to thank Sissy from Stanford because she was my babysitter and she helped me through a lot of the workbook. And so that was great that I had a good babysitter. And then, Stanford Elementary was great. Obviously it's nice to have a school that's like right up the street from where you live. So it was really close. Brand new facility at the time. At that time, they had 2 to 3 classrooms in one big room. So that was kind of unique, instead of having separate classrooms. So that was an interesting experience. And it actually seemed to work really well because what happened is teachers were able to group teach sometimes or individually, like certain people would go to one teacher and certain people would go to another teacher. Going after that, I went to Stratton, which, used to be sort of the black high school. And what was neat about that is it was a really old facility even at that time, but they had like a lot of great gym equipment. They had like the pommel horse, and they had like just like anything sports wise that you could think of. Like they had like a lot of things, mm-hmm. that we were exposed to. I ran track when I was in junior high. I wanted a letter, I guess was my big thing there. And go. Then so I did do that, and I was a mile runner. So.
When you got to high school, of course, you got combined Beckley Junior High, Stratton, and Park. You got quite a few more students at that place. What were did you develop any interest in clubs or anything when you were in high school?
Yeah, when I went to Woodrow Wilson, I really got interested Well, Mr. Farley, who was actually my junior high school West Virginia studies teacher, we talked about Hatfields and McCoys, and we talked at the outdoor dramas. And he said, "Oh, well, you should consider getting a job out there ushering during the summer or doing something out there."
Are you talking about Jesse Farley?
Was he a minister? Sure. Yeah. Jesse Farley.
He's retired from teaching, but he's still a minister. Really.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, great. Definitely somebody who influenced me. So he told me about that, and I was like, wow, that's kind of an interesting idea. So when I got to Woodrow Wilson, I saw that there was an audition for the very first play, and auditioned for it. It was called Rehearsal for Murder, which was a murder mystery, and I got a part kind of playing an old janitor, which is kind of funny. I'm this young little kid, really kind of going in, young teenager, playing this old man, and it was just a short little part, little comic relief, but I definitely got the bug of doing theater at that point. And so then I did South Pacific, the musical, which is the musical we did that year, and got
what was the musical?
South Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I got to know Joellen Livingston, who was the musical director, and she worked with the band, but she also taught choir, and she was a really great influence on me. And
who was the drama teacher?
Mrs. Wills.
Okay.
Was the drama teacher, and she's short little thing where, I mean, literally, if you saw her in the halls, you thought she was a student because she was such a petite little thing, but she was really great too. And after that, I actually auditioned for Theater West Virginia for Hatfields and McCoys and Honey in the Rock.
What grade were you in then?
I was in 10th grade, and it was going into the 10th grade summer, and I got cast to play McCoy, Calvin McCoy, and Zebulon Zachariah Herkimer in Honey in the Rock, which was sort of a comedy relief part. And we also did Fiddler on the Roof, where I played, at the very end, they how they had matchmakers that set up the daughters with a boy. Well, I was one of the boys that at the end that they were setting up their youngest daughters with. So that was a really great opportunity for me, because I was able to meet a lot of people who were going to West Virginia University and Marshall, and people come from all over to act in those dramas, as well as a lot of
this would have been in the 80s?
Yeah, this was 80, 83, 84. Yeah.
And who was the director of Honey in the Rock at that time? Do you remember? Or who was one of the directors?
I don't remember the directors as much as I remember J.R. Weirs was the general manager, and I know that he directed Fiddler on the Roof.
Okay.
And the name of the other directors, unfortunately, I don't remember those. But
okay.
Yeah.
And let's go back just a minute. In the high school, South Pacific, was that a pretty big production? I mean, did you guys in the auditorium? Where did you put on the show?
Well, this is an interesting fact about that. We did not have the auditorium at that point.
Oh, okay.
And we had to set up a stage in the cafeteria. So my junior and senior year, we fought really, as students, as the drama society, because there was talk that they wanted to take the funding for the performance art area that's there, and they were wanting to build something downtown instead of actually having it at Woodrow Wilson High School. And so we actually went to, I don't know whether it was a city council, I think it was a city council meeting, and did a production where we changed the words to, we were doing The Wizard of Oz at the time, and instead of singing If We Only Had a Brain, which I actually played the Scarecrow, this is my senior year, in The Wizard of Oz, we sang If We Only Had a Stage. And so we basically changed the words and really fought for them to fund a performing arts area or the theater at Woodrow Wilson. So it was wonderful to actually see that actually came to fruition. And really that's part of what got me involved with going into politics, and also getting interested in right now I'm on the board of Big Creek Connects, which is the creek that runs behind my house, and I was a founding member of that. So like a lot of my political aspirations came from that experience of like stepping up and going to a county council meeting or city council meeting and saying, look, we need this stage. We need it to be close to us because they'd have to bus us downtown to go to that theater, and then we wouldn't be able to have as when theater you spend a lot of time building sets, doing costumes, doing productions, rehearsing, and there's just so much that goes into it. Adding travel time on top of that would be hard.
So it's evolved quite a bit. Back at even the old days, they had shows at the old memorial building uptown, and then the old Woodrow Wilson, which is Park Middle School, they had stage there. And I know we used to have a performing group within the city called Curtain Callers, and they had an old palace theater that they put on shows. But the auditorium at Woodrow Wilson now has been I guess an accumulation of a lot of effort, and it's a beautiful facility and first class. I mean, the sound system is tremendous. It's just unfortunate we've been under the pandemic and nothing's been going on, and hopefully they'll get those things started back. Now, so you were in Honey in the Rock all 3 years or 2 years during high school?
I actually worked there 3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
3 years.
So I skipped a year. And worked for Kroger's. So I just had one light summer, and then but I did work for there 3 years.
So you got the bug, the acting bug or the performing bug, but were there some things that like coming out at night and working every day? I mean, did the realization had to be kind of, it takes a special person to do that kind of stuff.
Well, you mentioned Curtain Callers. I believe that was the company. Curtain Callers moved to Mount Hope, and they were performing in Mount Hope's theater.
Yeah.
And I did a production. I did a couple productions there. We did The Music Man, and we also did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And one of those experiences, it like rained and froze, and I was coming through what we called the garden grounds, and driving my dad's Nova. And sure enough, it was black ice, and I didn't realize it was just frozen, and you couldn't see because it was black ice. And I slid off the road, and luckily a car came by, and as you know, car coming by in the middle of the night on that road is not very often, so I got very lucky. And so my dad was able to go back and get that car out, and I think the next day maybe, but yeah, that was an experience where like you realize like you put a lot of time into it, and I guess in hindsight, I gave up my piano lessons because I was spending so much time doing theater. So that's one of the things where, you kind of wish you kind of would have made the time for both. But it does take a lot out of you. And working at Theater West Virginia, I got into costuming, and there was nights where we were there all night, and we would pull down the crash pads that when the Confederates get shot or the Union gets shot and they fall off, and they fall off the mountain and fall into a crash pad, which is all a thing full of sponges that's in a fishing net type thing. We would pull those out and lay on those and sleep for an hour or so, and then go back to work. So it was,
Some of the actors that came in from other states or out of the area, did you learn a lot from them? Or
Definitely, it opened me up to a world of diversity, gay people, very artistic people, musically talented people, just really amazing dancing. Tanita Manning, who's I know still in the Beckley area, she is the choreographer who I know has been there forever and ever, and it's so like it just opened me up to a lot of different people, and I still luckily I'm friends with a lot of them now still on social media, and just being able to follow what they're doing, it's amazing. And my friend Tom Hoshins, who I went to high school with, he actually with that one summer I took off, he actually took up costuming there, and he's went on to be the head costume supervisor at Grey's Anatomy, and then he's now doing Station 19. So it's kind of cool to see like a lot of my friends that from there go on to do other things, and also I went to West Virginia University after that, studying musical theater.
So when you went to West Virginia University, you entered the fine arts school,
I did.
and
Yeah.
were you still pursuing acting, or
I wanted to, I definitely wanted to do acting and musical theater, but the more I experienced theater West Virginia and other theaters like Lakeview Theater, which was, or Lakeview Theater in the Morgantown area, like the more I realized, like you really the part of what theater needs is really good management. And so as I was getting my master's or my bachelor's in fine arts and musical theater, I got the bug to get into arts management and really started working in the box office more. I'd worked in costuming a lot throughout that was my work study all throughout West Virginia University. But then I got into the box office, and then I was like, well, I really want to help with the management side of it too, because finding good artistic directors and good managing directors for theaters and for art museums or dance companies is so necessary. And so I got the bug of kind of wanting to get into that part of it.
mhm. Kind of from an administrative point of view, that
Right.
which you have to have.
Yeah.
That's what makes them. And so you graduated uh, with a drama degree
hmm
from West Virginia University, and where'd you go after that?
Well, I looked around. I looked at Drexel University and I got accepted there, which is in Philadelphia. And then I saw that the University of Akron had 10 graduate assistantships. And maybe it wasn't even 10. It was something like maybe 8 to 10. And that paid for your master's degree in arts administration. And the trade-off is that you obviously have to work for them in some capacity. They're doing marketing or working in the box office. And I interviewed for that and got that. So that brought me to the University of Akron in Akron, Ohio. So
Hmm.
that's how it kind of got here.
And what kind of work did you do once you were in the area? I mean,
Well, I actually was the box office manager for the University of Akron, the dance department and the theater department. So that was really a great experience. I still had a love for outdoor historical drama, and so I decided that my thesis topic would be the history of outdoor historical drama in the United States. And one of the unique things about the United States is the two different genres of theater that we've created is musical theater and outdoor historical drama. So nobody had ever like went to all of these nonprofits throughout the country and like drew all of their information together into one composite of documenting how the outdoor dramas got started and like what community members kind of got involved. So I decided to do a sort of like a biography of that, along with giving like a short description of each drama and what they're about. So that's how I kind of finished up my degree, and that took me to the University of North Carolina, where they have the Institute of Outdoor Historical Drama, um, and uh, and I did some research there. I worked in terms of in Akron. I worked at Porthouse Theater, which is on the grounds of Blossom Music Center, which is a big outdoor where the Cleveland Orchestra plays. I worked for them, which was through Kent State University. I worked for Carousel Dinner Theater, which was at the time the largest dinner theater in the country. That was a really neat experience, and they did like some amazing productions of musicals. There, I worked at the box office. For Porthouse, I was the facilities manager. I worked for the ski resorts, so that was kind of a neat thing. It gave me an opportunity to learn how to ski. So I did a lot of different things, and I got the opportunity to go to New Jersey Shakespeare Festival in 1994. So that kind of took me back to the East Coast. I spent the summer there working as their house manager, where I ran their concessions and worked out the box office some and really kind of did a whole bunch of things, but kind of managed a lot of their interns. And from there, I went to McCarter Performing Arts Center, which is in New Jersey, in Princeton, New Jersey. And that's where I finished up my thesis. So I did a lot of my research at that time at the Princeton Library. Kind of finishing up my thesis. I ended kind of my schooling. I think it was like 1992. I ended my schooling, but I didn't get my thesis completed until 1995, and then I graduated from the University of Akron.
At that particular time, what was your dream? What were you aspiring to do? I mean, what goal were you looking at?
It's kind of funny. Dreams are, I guess I always had like this dream of like having like an entertainment facility that I would run where I could have productions and do like sort of the marketing, like where you have like a nightclub where people would come to, and that you would have performances and things like that, and just having like that vision of having a combination of where I could have different things happening, dance and theater, and have galleries and stuff like that. So I guess that was kind of my dream. I have worked a lot in marketing and a lot in design, and that's where I fell. Right now, I am a designer, so uh, things have kind of shifted. But so being a designer, I think, is kind of where I landed. But like that idea of having a property or a facility where I could manage, like sort of like that nightclub performance idea. You know,
Let's talk about the landing. You work for Home Depot
I do.
now.
Yeah.
How long have you been with them?
It's 6 years, coming on 6 years. Yeah.
And you're involved in designing
Yes.
and
Yeah.
of
What
home sort of.
well, what I do is I am a millwork specialist, senior design specialist, where I actually did this in the store, but where I designed doors, windows, decks, garages, just a lot of different things like that. And then saw an opportunity to work for corporate and work from home for corporate, and I jumped on that bandwagon, and we opened in September as a virtual design facility, and I got in January, and have been doing it since, and love it, and it's
That's
just
great.
another artistic outlet for me, which is really cool.
But you still can have your dream. I mean, of
I still can, yeah. I mean, I definitely can. It's well, nightclubs have had it hard, obviously, with COVID. So it's
yeah.
not, maybe it's good that my dream worked a little bit different, which is kind of good.
But
But
you own your own home here in Cleveland, and with the work and the schooling and everything. But a few years ago, you got involved in politics.
I did,
Yeah, how did that
yeah.
happen?
Well, I had when I moved to the town, when I moved to Cleveland, the very first person who stopped by was Meryl Gordon, who was our city council woman, and she came and talked to my parents and introduced herself and wanted to welcome me to the neighborhood. So I got to know her, and she was running again, and so I got actively involved in helping her with her campaign. And then Brian Cummins, who he was the head of our redevelopment organization, and she was finishing out her turn, and she gave up her job and gave it to somebody else. But Brian Cummins, who was running for city council, was somebody that I really respected, and I kind of became his de facto campaign manager, and set up created flyers and passed out flyers that he was going to different diners that are all throughout the area, and he would be there at a certain time, so we would let people know, like, come meet your councilman, and so they could go in and have breakfast and actually have a chance to talk to him. And he won, and so that got me really interested. But I was like, well, if I ever do this again, I want to run myself. I'm going to do it for myself. And we had a transition where our county commissioners, some of them got in legal trouble. So they decided to change, instead of having three commissioners, they decided to have a county council. So there was, I think, 12 positions open. And so I ran for county council. And that was really a neat experience to go out and talk to the community, be in the parades, and just go out and shake hands and talk to reporters, and do things like that. I didn't win, but it was a really great experience. And I did win my area, which, like, my neighborhood. Obviously, need more than my neighborhood, but it's great to know that, like, the people who are, like, 10 blocks around you in every direction have your back. So,
Yeah, I had an experience earlier. I got to help in a congressional race and work for a candidate, and it was I'm 71 years old, and I remember it, and it was great. I mean, I learned a lot,
Right.
some good and bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's what you get. But do you think you might run again sometime, or you think that's possible?
I would never say never. I just totally believe that if the right opportunity comes along, and to be honest with you, I've had people come to me and say, run for county council, or no, city council, run for city council, run for city council, because there is some people that city council is one of those things where, like, sometimes people get too lax in their job and they're just like, oh, I got this. And they don't really think that there's more to be done, but there's definitely more to be done. I'm actively involved in my community with, I am a founding member of what used to be called Friends of Big Creek, which is the creek that runs through the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo, or if anybody knows the area. But it's the third largest tributary to the Cuyahoga River, which we all famously know caught on fire back in the 50s. But that was the least of the many fires, but there was 11. But being a founding member of what is now called Big Creek Connects, I'm active on the board, and we're concerned about making sure that obviously conservation, but we also want access. So, like, there's a lot of trails, like the Towpath Trail, and a lot of bike trails and, well, pedestrian trails that we're trying to get connected, because there's like some they run and then there's like a break, and then they run and there's a break. So really that's why we're Big Creek Connects. We're trying to connect up all those trails so pedestrians have access to Big Creek.
With all this, your work and politics, and there's, you think there'll ever be? You say never, but you think there'll ever be a community theater involved again, or anything like that?
I do. I mean, I would love to go back to Theater West Virginia and spend a summer there again. I mean, the challenge is obviously, I think if you're a teacher, you get summers off, and, there's certain jobs where you have the summer off. And so it may not happen until I'm retired, but I would love to go do summer stock again and be in the productions at Theater West Virginia, or maybe do something local here. I mean, now obviously I have some evenings free where it kind of opens that up, where in the past I didn't always have that rehearsal time that's required. So it's starting to open up a little bit more for me, that I'm going to be able to do stuff like that.
You think you would ever want to move back to West Virginia permanently, or?
It's, I have definitely a love of the area. It's very beautiful. It's very lush. As you could tell, I mean, I have a great view of Big Creek, which reminds me, I'm over on top of a hill looking down at a creek that's way down there, which reminds me of southern West Virginia in a lot of ways. And we have a lot of green things around this area, and we are called the Forest City in Cleveland. But there's something about Beckley, and it's such a beautiful area. The air is so clean, and I love a lot of the hospitality of West Virginia. I love the area. I guess sometimes I think that some of the people there are so closed-minded to art and artistic ideas and like thinking differently. And so like that kind of is like a hesitancy, I guess, when I think of Beckley. I don't see all the, great theater and all the support for great theater and great art and great dance and great music in Beckley. Not that it's not there, it's just so minor and so tiny compared to Cleveland, which is, I mean, not only is Cleveland great with loving their sports, like loving the Browns, for instance, even though they may lose a lot or whatever. I just don't see that as much in Beckley as that I would like to see to bring me back.
Well, Dale, you're not going to believe this, but our show's about up.
Yes,
and
we did it.
I really enjoyed talking to you. And I mean, you're an example of a diverse and eclectic person who's done well. And we'll get back to Cleveland and talk to you again. But we thank you for being part of our show.
And I'll come to Beckley. I do love Beckley. So,
and for those people listening in, if you want to contact me at awbennett50, that's 50 @gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And until next week, remember, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet.